And we are live, everybody.
Awesome. We'll give a minute or two for people to file in.
Hopefully everybody had a good 4th of July. I don't know, we'll sit here awkwardly in silence if not.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, nice to just be outside. I live in Wisconsin, so like you get, I don't know, 6 weeks. 6 weeks is nice, so it's like our time to shine. Yep, exactly. How was yours?
Good. Same. This was like the first weekend in maybe like a month and a half. My wife and I didn't have plans or travel or anything like that, and so I went home on Friday afternoon and didn't leave the house until Monday morning, and it was glorious.
It was horrible in Cincinnati. It was so hot.
It was exceptionally hot. Yeah.
Leading up to 4th of July, it was brutal. So.
Yeah. Cool. Now, Audrey, I bet in Florida it's pretty hot. Stay in the house type weather right now.
Yeah, I didn't really do anything. Yeah, I caught up on work inside. It's hot.
I know everyone always asks me, they're like, how do you live in Wisconsin? It gets so cold there. I'm like, well, we don't go outside when it's cold, just like you don't go outside in August. Like, yeah. It just flips.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the summers are nice there. I'm from Cleveland originally, and I miss the Cleveland summers.
Cool. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Ben Wolber. I'm the founder and CEO of Illume, and we're really, really excited to have you all with us. Really, over the last year, we've had the opportunity to work with practices ranging from single location clinics to large multi-location brands. And one theme that continues to come up in almost every conversation that we're having is technology is really advancing faster than ever. But for many operators, it does feel like running the business has actually become a little bit more complicated to a degree. So every new platform promises to save time, automate workflows, or improve like visibility. But really before long, you're managing a dozen different systems that weren't really built to work together. And that's exactly what we want to talk about today. So not which software is the best, but how really the best operators are thinking about building a technology stack that actually supports their growth. So to quickly put into perspective, really the average franchise business today is using somewhere between 6 and 10 different platforms. And honestly, for many of those organizations that we work with, it's even more than that. And you have to think about things like an EMR, like a PMS system, a CRM, a marketing platform, payroll, accounting, inventory, reporting. Individually, every one of those systems does serve a purpose, but the challenge there isn't having multiple tools. It's making sure they work together in a way that really helps you and your team make better decisions instead of just creating more work or operational lift on your end. So, and this does bring up a question for us is like, if every tool is supposed to solve a problem, why does it always feel like things get more complicated as you onboard more and more tech solutions in your business?
Ben, I might kick off a question first, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Who's on this call? Who are you, Kristen? Who are you, Audrey?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi.
I'm the CEO and president of MassageLuXe. MassageLuXe has over 100 locations. We're a massage and facial membership-based franchise. We're in 22 states, and our franchisees, most of them own multiple locations. So good to know that 66% of our locations are multi-unit owned, and I'm excited to be here and chat with you both, all three of you.
Likewise. Audrey Neff, I'm Chief Marketing Officer of Aviva Aesthetics. We are an entrepreneur-owned medical spa platform with around 20 locations across the United States. So a little different than a traditional private equity roll-up in that our platform is majority owned by the medical spa founders instead of private equity. So been in the industry for 12 years and excited to be here with you all.
And I'm Paul Ehlinger. I'm the founder and CEO of Flamel. we automate marketing workflows for multi-location and franchise brands, kind of across channels, organic, social ads, Google business profiles, reviews, all that good stuff. So Ben, thanks for bringing this all together, though. We're excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into this with you all. So again, kind of jumping back into the topic here is what we're seeing is, like, at the end of the day, the technology that you're investing in as a business owner should reduce the complexity and not create more. But sometimes, somewhere along the way, a lot of the organizations that we see end up spending more time moving information between systems than actually using that information to try to improve their business. So eventually, the conversations do shift from what should we do to which number is, like, actually right. And that's really the challenge that we wanted to unpack today. And then again, we just quickly met the panel. So quickly, some housekeeping items. Today's agenda, like I said before, we're going to dive into the problem, what's costing you as a business owner, what the best operators are doing, and then we'll have some time at the end for a live Q&A. So I'd love to kick this off with a question for the group. And I think everyone agrees software has improved dramatically over the last decade. Even in the last 2 years, AI has improved dramatically. So why does it feel like running the business has become harder? Audrey, I can start with you, and then we can go down the line.
Yeah, I think from a tech standpoint, and I agree with you, Ben, I think technology has become a lot better, but I think something else to add is there's a lot more technology now. And so I think that I don't want to call it clutter, but I think that there is a lot of clutter that people have to cut through when they are evaluating platforms. For instance, at Aviva, we're right now, through our 20 locations, we're really trying to build a consolidated tech stack that is maybe around 4 to 5 different platforms that all integrate together and sit on top of each other seamlessly. But through that, there's also naturally going to be a lot of trial and error as well. And so I think going down to the local level of practices, and I'm sure, I would love to hear, Kristen, your thoughts as someone that has all of these franchise locations as well. Since our platform is still owned, the founders of the med spa still own their business. They still have full business and clinical autonomy. They own all decision making. We can guide them on what we believe is the best solution to use, but ultimately it's still their decision at the end of the day. And so I think where there's kind of a discrepancy is the practice owner, instead of being, I think it almost goes into a belief issue, which sounds kind of silly, but they need to believe and understand the why that they're implementing this specific technology or software platform. I think that comes first. And then I think also not trying to do too many things at once. I think a lot of people pile all these things on their plate at one time. And if you do that, you're naturally going to run into onboarding issues. I think baby steps when it comes to onboarding new systems and technology. I think from the technology standpoint, support and onboarding, honestly, onboarding is probably one of the most important things, because if you screw up onboarding, the rest of the experience is going to be terrible. Yeah. And the customer is already not happy, whether it's a 2-location med spa or a 50-location franchise, whatever it may be. So I actually think onboarding, obviously the sales process is great. You get people all excited. They sign a contract and onboarding comes. And I've been in, before I was chief marketing officer of Aviva, I was in SaaS for about 10 years. So I have a ton of experience in the software world as well. And I think onboarding as well is where the ball gets dropped a lot. And then post live, when they go live with the system, support. And I think those are the two areas where software platforms and SaaS systems in the industry damage their reputation, are those two components.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that brings up a good point. So Kristen, especially with the size of MassageLuXe, I'd be curious to hear kind of how you're thinking about evaluating a tech stack. And then also, has there ever been an instance where you felt a shift from helping like kind of your franchisees when you're implementing like a tech solution, or is there an example where it created more like complexity that you would say?
Yeah, I mean, Audrey, I think you bring a really good point in that I'm in a multi-location situation where you have an owner-operator who has the autonomy to choose what they bring in and what they don't, but you also have this leadership shell, whether it be an organization like yours or a franchisor that's trying to simplify. It can get really, really complicated. I want to talk about that, but also like whether you're multi-location or not, there's a lot of companies that have full control that still have tech problems as it relates to how many tools and systems you were using. And I remember being proud of like how big my tech stack was at one point, right? And being like, well, I have this for this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And now, nobody wants that. And I think it still occurs because departments operate in silos. And even inter-departments operate in silos. You can have a marketing department, and depending on how big it is, the person who's in charge of social media is bringing on one tech stack. You got reputation management or NPS scoring in a tech stack. You got the immediate tech stack, and all of a sudden, the same department has multiple tools. Do that across 7 departments, and all of a sudden, you've got a really big problem. Add the complexity of multi-location and ownership choice, and that further compounds. And I think to answer your question, Ben, absolutely, this is a problem across everything that we are doing, both when we roll out and when the franchisees choose to roll out something that is not corporate approved. And we try to gatekeep that. So in franchising, we do have some say over what they can and cannot use, because at the end of the day, we own the website, the tags, the data, and a lot of that is not powered without, our consent. So when we're making choices around the franchisee tech stack, we have to remember, like, I'm a marketer at heart, right? I started CMO life, and the franchisees aren't marketers. Like, they don't need 7 marketing tools. They need one tool that does everything in order to manage the business, because they're running the business. And so that's where things get complicated.
Yeah.
Kristen, I'm curious, you kind of bring up like, you used to be so proud of having this massive tech stack, right? And you've been working to reduce it. I think, and tooting your guys' horn a little bit, one of the things we really have liked working with you guys was up front, it's kind of like, we have a problem to solve. Let's solve it together. And so it's not really just buying an out-of-the-box solution, but it's finding partners that you're willing to work with and say, hey, this is what we have. This is where we can go with it. And this is how we can work together to build that. How much has that evolved for you as you've been running, MassageLuXe, where it's like, hey, we can just work with vendors to make it more comprehensive and less kind of, indirect Venn diagram.
Right. Well, most vendors, though, won't do what we want them to do, which is try to fit multiple gaps that we're trying to fill. Most will hand you the software and say, oh, it doesn't fit your business. Sorry, that's too bad. Use this. And then you're forced to bring something in addition to that. And so partnering with the people who understand that at the end, they may need to work with the brand to understand how they can fill more than just one bucket, I think is something valuable and something that I value about you guys. I was in a big business prior to MassageLuXe with 5,500 locations, right? And when you partner with SaaS companies that take on 5,500 locations, even that weight won't get them to prioritize development or change something in regard to what the business needs. And again, that creates problems both at the top and the bottom. And ultimately, innovation from one of their other tech providers puts your business in threat because you didn't build it in the upfront.
Awesome. Cool. So to kind of feed into this next slide here, again, kind of what you just mentioned before, Kristen, is looking at this slide here could be overwhelming to some of our attendees, but again, none of these systems I would say are optional when you're running, especially like a multi-location brand. Like every organization needs some form of scheduling tool. Every organization needs like some form of a marketing platform. Every organization needs payroll. You need reporting. Really, the challenge isn't deciding whether you need them. It's just like deciding how all of these pieces fit together. So Paul, I'll actually start with you here. Is from your seat as the other AI guy on this call, would you say AI is helping reduce this complexity, or would you say it's like adding another layer to this stack?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like, so the one of the ways it's increasing complexity, I would say, is, my gosh, there's a lot of point solutions out there these days, where you can come in and solve one little thing, and it's AI powered and all this good stuff. And so I think there's a lot more options out there. The other thing I think you're seeing is there's a lot of native platforms that are really, really, really trying to push AI features as well, right?
Yeah.
And so not only are you like getting more options, but your existing tech stack is also changing really rapidly because they're feeling, pressure from the markets that they have to be an AI native company to be valued, right? Like we saw the SaaS apocalypse in the public markets where software vendors just got destroyed. And so I think there's a lot of change happening right now. And that's really scary, and that makes tech stack building harder and harder. I think, my view on the market is over the next couple of years here, a lot of these point solutions are kind of going to fall away, right? There was this big wave of new startups that came out. And so I think what you're going to start getting is just more robust, like true workflow fit. So I think right now is a tumultuous stage, but I think it's one that's going to like lead to better, greener grasses here in a couple of years. But I think it is a crazy time in technology right now for sure.
Yeah. I wholeheartly agree as well. And then kind of had another question come up from that. So Audrey, on your end, especially tying to like some of the your marketing specific background, how has it been difficult for you to connect like dots between like your specific channel's performance and then like what's actually happening in the business? And then also like how does that scale from like 2 locations to like the 20 that you guys are working with today?
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of nuances to our model because since everyone has their own autonomy, they keep their cash flow, their profits apart from a small MSO investment that is paid to Aviva on a monthly basis to be a part of the platform. It's different because every single location can still use the agency or CRM platform that they want to use. So something that's been an initiative of mine that I've been spearheading is trying to start consolidating this into using a good CRM. I would say, in this industry of aesthetics, most med spas are using high level. Like it's low cost. You can plug a lot of things into it. Our EMR of choice is Zenoti. So we're able to integrate everything from go high level into the website, connect that into Zenoti so that there is an actual seamless flow connecting leads that are coming through and then connecting that into the EMR platform as well. And then also working on consolidating the agencies that we're using as well and creating more stronger partnerships around a very small handful of agencies that I've worked with over the last 12 years that I trust dearly. So it's a process that is still being worked out right now because everybody, when they join, everyone's using something completely different. Everyone's using a different marketing agency, using or not using a CRM, which I am one of the biggest advocates of. You need to use some type of CRM system so you can track and nurture your leads and it's plugged into the website. And email marketing is something we could go into. I think email marketing is one of my freaking favorite things in the entire world. And I think people totally undervalue it. I think like your email database is something that you own. Like you don't own your social media channel platforms because if something happens to Instagram or Meta or whatever, you don't own that. That's a rented platform, but you do own your email list. And it's something that's very low cost to do. I think it just needs to be prioritized and trained of every person that calls. We're getting their primary valid contact information and putting it into a database. Like you would think everyone asks that. A lot of people don't even ask for this information. So that's going off on a tangent, but I can't remember what question you answered, Ben. But so with that, it's advantageous to get more consolidation so that we can start building systems that are scalable from marketing so that it's not a free for all. And so that's something I'm very passionate about. It's something that we're starting to roll out across our locations. We're growing exponentially. So now is the time kind of get these things tightened up so that we have a very well-oiled marketing engine that actually has the ability to have insight into the KPIs and the metrics and what is the conversion on the website, how many leads filled out forms, how many of those forms converted into consultations, how many consultations converted into treatments, and then so on and so forth. So everything is just a series of cascading conversions. And I think it ultimately comes down to you need technology in place to track. Technology is everyone's friend. I think everybody gets stressed out about implementing new technology, but we got to power through and realize that if we don't do it, we're going to get left in the dust of other multi-location businesses, whether it's a competitor or not, that are building a really great tech stack. That is something that creates very structured scalability in a business, and it's one of the most important things.
Yeah. Question for you. I think such a tough challenge to solve for, not being able to prescribe the software or the vendor as you scale. That seems scary. I'm curious, obviously you're trying to consolidate those offerings. I think there's almost two paths, right? There's data consolidation, where could you build a data lake that just brings everything together regardless of vendor or platform, and then there's actual vendor consolidation. Do you think of those in the same way? Do you think building those down the same paths? Do you like one or the other? How do you think about that? That's kind of a random question. Sorry, just building off of it, I was thinking about that.
So you mean more like of a data warehouse?
Yeah, where it's if you are going to have so many solutions in the mix, just being able to standardize the data into one place so that it kind of reduces the problems of many vendors.
Yeah, that's something that we're also working on building as well. It's a work in progress, but it's something that will essentially be plugged into every single location so that there's a local view of what's going on. And then there's the Aviva management team view that sees over top all of our locations that are a part of the platform.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then final question, I guess, Kristen, from a franchisor perspective, where do you think this view here becomes overwhelming to you as an operator?
I mean, when looking at it on this screen, it absolutely is overwhelming. But when we talk about AI and the advancements, just even in the last 10 months, I've never moved faster. I've never had more data, and I've never understood it better than I do right now. Because the reality is, a year ago, if I wanted to run a correlation analysis, I got to hire a data analyst, and that's a project. Or if I need to bring all these tools together and build the data lake, I got to hire someone for that. But now I can sit on the couch with a glass of wine. I've got my dashboard that connects into APIs of all of my tools, and I'm building the data analysis, and I'm building correlations in my business, and I'm vibe coding left and right in order to get the data that I didn't have 12 months ago, because I can move so much faster. So yes, overwhelming and kind of scary when you think about AI and the development and what it's going to do, but all change is scary. And if it's not scary, then it's probably not something we can change. So I'm very optimistic about the level of progression we've had just even in the last year.
Yeah. Awesome. So again, setting the stage here for the operator reality. So the 3 points that we have here really do go together. It's that manual work, duplication of data, and then that staff confusion, where this is all symptoms of those disconnected systems in a sense. And honestly, I think we've all experienced the meeting where people spend more time debating the numbers rather than deciding what action to actually take. So I'll first kind of start, go back to Paul. What's one repetitive task you think that AI is already good enough at eliminating today? And you can even talk about some of the stuff you're doing with Flamel.
Yeah, I think specifically with multi-location, if you are running anything from the franchisor or national level, repetitive tasks are all of the tasks, right? You kind of have to make a decision once. Then if you want to run that campaign in 100 locations, historically, you either relied on your franchisee to build it, or you went in there, did it themselves, or you paid an agency to do it manually, right? And so I think there are just an ton of kind of everyday tasks that if you can do it once, great, and push it everywhere. If you can do it once, push it everywhere, localize it, even better. And so, I think we almost kind of talk about ourselves like that, right? I think generative AI is the big thing, and you can build new things and everything. But in my belief, the real power of AI is automation. It's just taking workflows that humans shouldn't have to do, because there's no creativity in going to rebuild a meta ad campaign from one location to the other. And in fact, it's terrible because the meta ads platform sucks. And so shout out Mark Zuckerberg, acting like we're faces there. That's just what I think. I think I like to have people, it's like a spaghetti chart when you're doing it on a manufacturing floor, but take your time and write it down. Like, where did you spend time? And then how many of those chunks of times were just spent because you didn't have something that did it for you, right? Because I think the real cool thing in AI and the utopian view of it is, in reality, we should be empowering people to be more creative, right? Because they don't have to do the drudge of the daily. So that's kind of how we see it, is just like, hey, why are you clicking the same button 100 times? Let's build a thing to click that button. You know?
Yeah. And that kind of sparks a follow-up question more for Kristen here. It's like, from a franchisor perspective, how are you keeping like your specific teams aligned? So again, when everyone, like all your franchisee locations have access to their data, but how are you making sure, I guess, they're looking at the same like KPI definition? Because like we've ran into that again as a reporting and analytics platform, where like one KPI, like total revenue, I could be looking at gross, Audrey could be looking at net, and then it's two different numbers, and then it leads to like another 20-minute discussion on why it's different. So I'd be curious to hear from a franchisor perspective how you're handling that.
Yeah, so I mean, the partners that we have in this space, we're all speaking from the same playbook, both from a partner, like a platform, an agency perspective, but also the franchisee perspective. And we're the ones organizing this data for the franchisees, right? And so we're working with our point of sale software in order to serve the KPIs they should be interested in most, right? Easy. They can download all of the data and run their own numbers if they want to, but it should be as quick as looking at a dashboard and saying this is exactly what needs to happen, and finding the partners that will plug in the tools in order to power that.
Awesome. And then Audrey, again, I'd be curious I'm very familiar with Aviva's model, so it's how do you
I want to go back to I want to go back and rewind and make this a little more like not just focus on Aviva, but industry wide. Because if we think about AI and the way I view AI, and obviously there's different channels of AI and how it can be utilized now, but I always think of it as like that one movie with the Limitless with Bradley Cooper, and he takes the pill. And if he takes the pill, like he can do all these things that he can't do without taking the pill. And I think that those that's AI. And I think it's something that's really, really powerful. And even on the topic, I'll give Illume a shout out just because, they've built in what is the Ava, the AI chatbot that you guys have that's in now baked the tool. It's one of the coolest things, because when Ben was showing me when it came out, it's so Illume, obviously it's pulling everything out of the EMR system. You have all the data, you have the custom dashboards. And now let's say you just want to ask a question and you just want the data in a matter of a split second. You just type into the AI chat bot, like Ben, you could give examples of whatever those questions would be. But I was even asking Ben the other day of a mutual client of ours or a mutual practice, let's call it, that we were talking to. And I needed some quick numbers. And I just texted Ben, and within like 5 minutes, he gave me all of these benchmarks and KPIs and revenue production percentages of providers in like 2 seconds. And I've never even dug into practices financials before. So it's very, very helpful because it saves time, it increases efficiency. And the more efficiency a business has, that equals productivity. The more productive you are, that equals profitability and revenue production. And I think also team members are just happier if things are more, let's call it, consolidated within a business versus all of these tech systems that we're trying to like put band-aids on, and then we get another one to solve the problem with this one, and before you know it, you're spending 10 times the amount of money that you would be spending, and everyone's annoyed, and then your staff gets annoyed, and then when you want to implement a new system, it's hard to get the buy-in from the staff because there's no stress that they're getting all these platforms thrown at them. So around AI, I think it's something that's really powerful. It's been really cool to see the evolution of the entire SaaS industry. Specifically even in this industry around analytical intelligence tools and analytics like Illume, and it's been very cool to see the evolution of it for sure.
And a big thing for us for like an AI perspective is like data accuracy, because obviously like the connotation is like AI hallucinates, which it does in some cases, but from our end, it's like we're heavily invested in our back end infrastructure and like marrying those different data sources together, like that custom semantic layer. That's what we've heavily invested time in, and then ensuring like the data is almost 100% accurate is a huge focus for us. So, because again, when you when the data is inaccurate, it just leads to a bunch of different questions. So cool. That kind of ties into like what our next topic here is. So we usually think about software costs as like subscription fees. And from our end, it's like as an Illume, from an Illume perspective, I actually think the biggest cost is time. So time spent reconciling the data, time spent making the decision, time spent finding the problem. So like as us as a product, so if we can save you time in one of those 3 buckets, like we're a great partner in that sense. So I'll kick it back over to Paul. So where from the Flamel seat, where do you think businesses are underestimating that cost?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on it with kind of the repetitive nature of tasks, like paying somebody to do robotic action, in my opinion, is like the worst thing to pay somebody for, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not really like value creation. It's just like execution.
Yeah.
And so that's a big one. I mean, I think within the multi-location sphere as well, it's like execution across scale is just hard, right? Like franchisees are business owners and they want to run their business a certain way. And so it's like a tiny mess up then gets multiplied by however many locations you have and how many owners you have. And so I think a lot of it comes into like, there's a lot of time spent on execution alone, but then cleanup of execution and like communication of execution and all of that. And so, you know, I think time is a massive thing because everything you do when you have, you know, like Kristen's scale just takes longer, right? It's not one task, it's 200 tasks. And so I think that's the big one we typically look at, you know, and I think for us, like it's kind of fun. We've been trying to figure this out internally as we start automating more things, like, you know, like stop clock measuring how long it takes you to create an ad in Meta. So then it's like, hey, we saved you 400 hours the last 3 months because you don't have to click all these buttons, right? So I think it's just cool as well. Like I have a positive view of technology. I'm an enthusiast of it, and I think like, man, this is what I grew up wanting, right? Like you want technology to do stuff for you. You want it to save your time because, like, I don't know, I love working, I love building my company, but I also love like reading and like doing other things, you know. So it does feel nice to say, like, you know, if we save time, like that's the end goal. We can drive value. We can get people doing what they should be doing. Just value creation.
Yeah, and
there's more time for wine tasting. There's more time. He is a wine tasting connoisseur, a sommelier. Yes.
Thank you. I am a sommelier, and I would like to drink wine every day. My doctor has recommended I don't, but.
Awesome. And Kristen,
the people in Italy drink wine
and they're healthy as heck. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. You know, I think
the blue zones of the world are the heavy wine drinkers in Europe.
we should not take this exit in this conversation because I will talk about wine for the rest of the day, just so you know.
Oh yeah, I believe it. But Kristen, Paul's point brings up a question for you: is like what is like the operational risk or cost of like a delayed decision making at the scale of like a MassageLuXe?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, right? Because a franchisor is only successful if their franchisees are making money. That's what makes the business work, right? And if we are late launching a campaign or there's mistakes because you are manually updating campaigns, you know, one after one, and by 56 you're tired. I mean, that's the loss of revenue. Yes, of course, at the franchisor level, but like, we'll be okay. We need to remember that our franchisees rolled over their 401ks. They emptied their bank account. They're trying to pay for their kids' dance lessons. And a mistake at the business level, the franchisor level, is not the same as the impact at the franchising level. And so making sure that we can move quickly and accurately is everything, because without it, the business crumbles.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Audrey, that kind of brings me up to another point for you is like from the aesthetics industry as a whole, like even down to like a single location operator, how would like a delay in decision making affect their operations? Because I do think it's valuable to kind of talk about it at like a smaller scale as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people drag their feet. Especially those operators of and owners of a single location or a 2 location or a 3 location. I think the faster you can make and this is how I view things. Maybe somebody doesn't some might not operate the way I do, but I would rather make a decision fast. And if it does make a mistake or I learn I should have done that, you find that out sooner and you just move on versus constantly dragging your feet. I find a lot of single location business owners do this. And this is from my experience in this industry and coming from a SaaS background as well. They just, I'll worry about it next month or the next month or the next month. And before they knew it, they have all of these things that have been piling up that from their disconnected tech stack or whatever they're doing. And they just keep delaying making a decision. And I think the faster you can make decisions in business, the faster you will move as a business owner and you will go past the people that are very slow decision makers. Because even if it's the wrong decision and you chose a piece of a software that wasn't the best fit, at least you figure it out and then you know and you move forward. And so I think from that level, going down to more of the smaller businesses, which are businesses that I've worked with for the last decade, it's definitely a common denominator between a lot of them. And I think it separates an average practice from a great practice or fast decision makers. Maybe they don't need all of the information at hand, right? They're action takers and they want to move the needle versus people that just drag their feet. And I feel like with technology, people do that. They just like keep kicking the can? Is that the saying? Kicking the can down the road. I don't know.
I totally agree though. I think rapid iteration is like the highest indicator of something being successful. Just about at anything. Like I think that's such a major thing.
Yeah. Definitely speed to insight. That's what we say. So cool.
Is that your company motto? Is speed to insight Illume's motto? Because if not, it should be.
It could be. Well, we used to call it Insight X, if you remember. It could be. It should be actually. It's a good point. But so really, again, it's like this is the scale problem essentially. So, Kristen, I kind of have a question for you. I'd be curious. So what do you have an example of something that's maybe worked at like, let's say like 10 locations, but then as you scaled it up to like, let's say 50, it kind of was like, oh, hey, this is actually not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, being that Paul's on the call, that's the first one that I would pick. But everything works at 10, and then when you get to 100, or by the way, 5,500, things start to crumble really fast. And placing ads for our franchisees is one of those things. We're an internal marketing agency, full service, right? And my team is amazing. And to provide the level of support to these owners who want full-fledged marketing plans as it relates to meta ad placement, Google ad placement, creative design, even traditional ad placement, data analysis, like all those things. When you have 10 locations, it's doable one-on-one. But when you have 100 plus, it gets much harder, and you have to find a way to still provide that service and be scalable and again, be accurate about it. The beauty of franchising at the franchisor level is you hit a certain point of scale, and the franchisor team needed doesn't need to compound at the rate that the franchisee growth happens. So, you hit 100 locations, you have 30 corporate staff. You hit 200 locations, you don't have 60 corporate staff, right? There's efficiencies still there. And we need to make sure that we maintain those efficiencies, or the business will not be as favorable as it would be if you didn't. So bringing in great tools to make that happen is necessary.
And it kind of gives me another idea for a question. Is Paul, from your end, how do you guys approach standardization? You can even answer it more broadly from like an AI perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, just building off of rapid iteration, right? Like I'm a big fan of you do things that don't scale, right? Like create value, do the thing that doesn't scale, and then figure out the system for it, right? Like if you're trying to build systems from day one, you're probably not building a valuable company right away, right? So in my opinion, it's like build value, build the system out of the value. And then to Kristen's point, sometimes you got to go into it and build a system that's not going to scale all the way just to do it for the next 12 months or whatever, right? And I think the more you can be cognizant of that, the more effective. And so for us, like I can just speak internally, right? Where it's like, we kind of identify how risky is this, and if it's exceptionally risky for us to roll out, then it's like, okay, this should be very, very manual up front, right? And we should have somebody who's thinking about this, doing this. If it's not risky, then great. Let's chuck it out there, to Audrey's point, and fix it the next day when it breaks. And so for us, I think it's just a combination of like build the value. And if you're delivering value, then you can build the system around it. But if you're only thinking about systems, you're just being one of those one-offs that are dragging their feet and not really wanting to make a decision.
Yeah, definitely. And then Audrey, from a broader aesthetics background, and then also like even at the Aviva level, it's like, how do you all maintain like brand consistency while you're also giving full control to your portfolio companies?
Yeah, and this is going to be different than traditional roll-ups, because going back to our model is so unique because that local decision making and executive decision making stays at the local level, just with Aviva's guidance and support and infrastructure that sits over top as the wraparound MSO. When we come in, like, we have a really great and incredible vice president of operations that's really boots on the ground in the trenches with all of the practices. And she's been the one that's really spearheading building systems throughout the platform. And I think something that makes our model a little unique in some ways is I think and obviously we have very strict financial criteria of practices that are a part of Aviva. We go through a very formal due diligence process, financial analyses. We are not partnering with startups. We're partnering with very successful businesses that are on average generating 3 million plus in revenue. And so from that level, obviously if they're at a stage of business where they're generating 3 million out of one location, they're doing something right. And in the aesthetic industry specifically, it really comes down to just that trust that the consumer has with this local business and the providers that are a part of it. But something that goes beyond that are really looking at, and this isn't really answering your question about brand consistency, but I think with brand consistency, I think that's more so because since Aviva is not every practice is Aviva Aesthetics, right? They're all their own local brand. So I'll answer this in two ways. In one way, what brand consistency is if it was, let's call it some type of de novo franchise, whatever it may be, where all of the locations are the same, meaning the brand name is the same, then I would say it shouldn't matter if you're walking into location A or location K, the experience is going to be identical. Right. And so when you know what to expect, and there's that nationwide trust of, I'm going into MassageLuXe, I know it's going to be great no matter which one I go into. That's when you have really great brand consistency. But going back to the Aviva level, I think something that makes our platform a little unique is because we have all of these successful practices that sit under the Aviva MSO. Every practice excels really well in sometimes in different areas that other practices excel in. And so something that I think is so incredibly exciting is we now get insights from 20 amazing locations and get to go in with when we're going through the KPIs and the metrics and the data and looking at their P&L, all these things. When we find a practice that is completely above average in a benchmark of rebooking rates or revenue per hour or whatever it is, we dive into those strategies and then we start to roll out those strategies platform wide. And another practice may kill it in another area. And so I think it's fun for us because we now get to get all of these different perspectives from all of these high performing businesses and apply them across all of the locations where we can really get every single practice firing on all cylinders to continue to grow and scale.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Thank you. So again, I know we've been beating the dead horse here about the problem, but I would love to spend some time on whether like solutions or like how some of the best operators, whether it's yourself or like other operators you might know, how they're thinking about it differently to a degree. So I guess I can start with Audrey. I know you've been in the aesthetics industry for quite some time. So what are some examples that you've seen, whether at like a multi-location level or even like a solo operator level, that you think have kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I think and I'm reading this slide, assuming this is the question you're asking me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say the best operators, they lead off facts, not feelings.
Yeah.
As simple as that. I think a lot of people, it's like, I feel like my business is doing amazing. I feel like my revenue is where it needs to be. I feel like I'm growing year over year, when in reality, you're not, right? If you actually looked at the numbers, if you looked at the data, then you would find that out. And so I think a lot of people, not everybody, but I think in aesthetics particularly, and I find this more so because a lot of these business owners and practice founders came from the world of medicine and the hospital and just treating patients. And they got into this industry because they just wanted to build something that was their own and empower people and give people confidence and make them perform better in all aspects of life. But sometimes what often gets put on the back burner is they're running a small business at the end of the day, and it's retail medicine, it's cash pay medicine, and you need to lead on facts, not feelings. And I think, some people operate on IQ, some people operate on off EQ. And I think that it does separate a really good operator from a very poor operator, is just knowing that you can't be emotional in business, first of all. And you have to lead with data. If you don't have insights to good data, it's accurate data, how can you possibly make future thinking decisions for your practice? And I think a lot of people, once again, I'll give a little shout out because I think what you guys have built is so incredible, because it solved a really big gap in aesthetics that I've been in for 12 years. There hasn't been a system like it yet. And so it's phenomenal to see, because now you plug it in, all of a sudden you have access to all of these insights and data. So now you can make decisions quicker instead of fumbling around trying to find the information, or hiring a consultant and paying them arm and a leg for them to go manually extract stuff out of your EMR and come up with these metrics manually for you. Like, these are things that I have seen over the last decade. And so I think the more efficient we can be and the faster that we can get access to KPIs and metrics and things like that, the better operator we will be, because we are now moving forward and operating off facts and not feelings. Yeah.
And definitely this kind of leads into, gives me an idea for another question, more for Kristen. From like a MassageLuXe perspective, how are you like evaluating? I assume, and again, from our seat, I assume every operator is always constantly evaluating their tech partners. Like, how are you approaching that, that discussion, or like, how are you measuring like if the tool is actually helping your team versus just giving them more information to sift through?
Yeah, so I mean, our franchise owners, they really don't have a unique tech stack, right? All of our franchise owners have the same tech stack because we're setting it up and making those decisions for them. And I think, to kind of dovetail off of what Audrey was saying, like, the best operators, they want to solve a problem. The very best operators think about the future problems that solve will create. And I think that's the natural way we find ourselves with 12 different tools, is because we got the tool to solve one problem and then didn't realize that we had another problem sitting over here, 3 months down the road, or in another department or another area of the business that we could easily solve both problems with if we would have just tied the problems together. And so, when I think about what's working and what's not working, I think about how big of a lift is it for my team or the franchisees to use it. How much of the addressable problems is it actually solving? And if it can't solve the problem, how is it working with whatever is solving the problem, so that there's at least some sort of centralized experience or destination or data share that we can benefit from. So
definitely. That's super helpful. And then I guess, Paul, final question to you, and like I can also answer this as well, as like, as a vendor in the space, like how do you recommend like operators evaluating yourself as a tool or solution in the space?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite thing is just like talk to our customers. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, they pay us to do a thing, and if they like that we do for the money they pay us, then we must be doing the right thing. I think it's that one. But above and beyond that, I think, and honestly, it's something to learn. Like, multi-location and franchising, the relationships are longer. Like, you are, they're signing a 10-year with their franchisee. They don't want another vendor, right? Like, if they're bringing you on, they want consistency, because the change is going to impact hundreds of business owners, right? And so I think building relationships is obviously always important, but I think it's even more important in spaces like this, where the relationships need to be longer and trusted. And so, like, I'm a big fan of, like, show up, just go there, be with them, talk to them. And like, be a person, because we're gonna work through thick and thin together over the course of this, right? Like, something will happen. A franchisee will be pissed at both of us at some time here. Like, let's feel confident we can work on this together. And so, I think it's just like and it's hard, because when you're venture backed and you're a tech company, everything's about speed, everything's about up to the right. And so trying to figure that out in a world where you have to be a little slow, you have to be intentional. It's a challenge you have to solve for, but I think if you can unlock that, it's really big winning, and I think, building off of everybody on the best operator stuff, I think it's like, it goes into that, right? Like great operators have the emotional intelligence to also, manage those relationships, build those relationships. And then the other one I'll throw out there is just like, you got to be the first to eat the shit sandwich. Like great leaders eat shit sandwiches, right? And it's just like the faster you can do it, the better for everybody. And I think, again, at these scales that these companies are operating at across the nation with people's retirements on the lines, you've just got to be responsible. You've got to be going out there and doing the thing.
No, and I mean, it's funny. Last year, you gave me advice, especially like when hiring. For us, like again, hiring as a first-time founder is never easy in a sense, and it's like you got to feel the pain before you go hire the role. That has obviously stuck with me as well. And then really the theme that you were saying is like for us, like no matter the size of the client, we view each client like engagement not just as like a subscription, it's like a partnership in a sense where like we do more probably than we should in some cases, but like we want to do it because like we're their partner, not just the contract. So no, I love that point that you mentioned. But obviously there's a lot of excitement around AI right now, so I'm going to talk to the other AI guy as well on the call here. So I'd love to separate what's what you feel is real from kind of what's the hype, if you want to call it that. So I'll start with you.
I wish I knew. No, I think, I kind of called it out earlier, but I think we're in a hype curve. And what a hype curve means is there's going to be a lot of things that peel away from it, right?
Yeah.
Like if we just think about this from pure supply and demand, like the world didn't need 1,000 new technology companies per se, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like 1,000 new problems were necessarily created. I think new problems will be created and new types of vendors will come to exist.
Yeah.
So to me, the biggest thing is just like, if you're going through vendor qualification, like you probably need to be a little more data wise now, because you can do a lot of crazy things with LLMs now that you didn't do previously. I think, I would be really questioning the long-term nature of these things, right? Like, because I can vibe code almost anything in a weekend. Does that mean it'll operate at the scale of MassageLuXe? Probably not, but I could probably put a presentation together that makes it look like it would. And so I think like verification and validation are way more important today. And I think that just cuts through it. It's just fundamentals, right? You can't lose fundamentals in the hype cycle, but I also think you should be excited. The hype is here for a reason. Like this is new, awesome freaking technology that is being built today. And so I think like what's real is the excitement. It's the investment into the space. It's the growth and capability of technology. What's probably not real is every new website you're seeing pop up on Twitter, every 10 minutes that's going to solve everything.
Yeah, definitely. Now I guess I'll kick it over to Kristen or Audrey from an operator perspective. What do you think is hype, or what do you think is kind of really working for you?
I will echo Paul in saying it's probably a little bit of both, but I'm here regardless because I think that even if there is some hype, this is a pivotal moment for the way that we do business and the way that our partners do business. And we can look at it one of two ways. We can worry it's hype and therefore not invest in it. And if it's not, then be left behind. Or we can take the hype as reality, invest in it and learn it and catch the short-term, curve on this. We're not going to lose out on investing in it. And hopefully it's into longevity.
Yeah. Awesome.
And around AI too, to build on it, AI it's critical. We all need to be implementing it, and it's certainly revolutionizing the industry, regardless of what industry we're in. But also going back to, because people are like, oh, AI is going to replace all of these jobs, and it's like it's not, because people at the end of the day in a consumer-driven, in a like direct-to-consumer business, whether it's MassageLuXe or the medical spa industry or the wellness and functional medicine industry, where you are treating people. At the end of the day, people still want to connect with people. They don't want to connect with AI or a robot. Now, is it good to use AI if it's after hours and someone's calling the practice and utilizing it in a very smart way? Yes, but we don't want to be over relying on it or making our business too AI forward, because then you lose the human connection component, which is what makes every single consumer facing business successful in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm going to ask everyone to leave everyone with kind of a call to action here. Paul, I'll kind of start with you. what's one kind of practical takeaway that you would leave the attendees with?
Yeah, I mean, I think like be excited, go explore, find new things. Like, don't hesitate to try things, but do your diligence when you're diving into something, right? And
Yeah.
the other thing I would say is there's a lot more startups out there now, right?
Yeah.
And what that means for you as a potential organization is that you can get in cheaper, faster, easier, right?
Yeah.
Like the companies that survive, this is the cheapest their AI solution's ever going to be. Once they're proving value, they're going to charge more and more and more to do so, right? And so I think like new generational technologies always create really unique opportunities to build partnerships early and fast. And so I think it's a great opportunity to do that and take advantage of it, right? Like if it will solve your problem, build that relationship and do it, knowing that you're getting that value sooner than other people will.
Yeah, awesome. And then Kristen, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, my piece of advice is something that I, kind of just said, which is like jump in, learn the space. You don't have to be an expert at it, but you do need to understand what the capabilities are, or pull in the right people who do, empower your team to learn AI and to partner with people who are going to use it to make your business stronger. And it's only going to get more advanced, and you're only going to get more behind if you don't start to use it.
Yeah. Awesome. Then Audrey, I'll kick it over to you.
And then my piece of advice for implementing technology is obviously we already talked about the concept of onboarding, but I think everything also going back to your team, like your team, like your team is everything, and you need them 150% bought into anything before you implement or migrate to a different system or whatever it is. And so I think it comes down to very clear communication and having everyone aligned on the same goals in the practice and why we are doing something before you go and actually throw something else at them. Because if your staff is really stressed out because you said, okay, now we're onboarding this system, now you guys have until end of the month, and you just throw something at them, it's very stressful. It creates resentment towards leadership. It can create perhaps staff turnover where employees aren't happy. And so I think just taking a step back and realizing your team is everything. You need to have really bulletproof communication with them, and you need to make sure that everyone is aligned on what you're trying to accomplish in the practice and why you're trying to accomplish it before you implement technology or whatever system it is.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And then I guess I'll leave you guys with speed to insight, as Paul was saying earlier.
I think that's great.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents. And I'm gonna get it tattooed on my back. We'll be good. But I know we covered a lot today. Again, if there's any questions, please drop them in the comments. And then again, we have a couple minutes left, so if there's any dying questions, feel free to ask them now. Paul, where can people connect with you?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately on LinkedIn a lot, so like you can see me there. My Facebook and Instagram pages are pretty crappy, so I wouldn't reach out to me there. Or you could just email me at paul@flamel.ai.
Awesome, cool. And then we're over at joinillume.com. So if you have any questions there, feel free to reach out via our website.
Audrey, what about you guys? Do you want anybody to reach out to you?
I post cool pictures of cows
if
on
anyone's
LinkedIn.
on and
We do put good pictures of dogs on LinkedIn.
anyone can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are my 2 channels. Or of course you can go to avivaesthetics.com. But yeah.
And if you want to send me wine, DM me and I'll send you my address. I always
There you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. This was fun. And again, we'll hang around for another minute or 2. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for putting this together and leading the charge here for us.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't see any comments coming in, so I may cut the live. And then thank you everybody for joining and listening to us on this beautiful Friday.
Thank you.
Behind.
Yeah.
And it takes